The week continues here on Locked On Coyotes as we're getting closer to the end of the Coyotes and Arizona era, but we're still not over. We're still talking Tucson hockey and a lot of other things on this episode of Locked On Coyotes.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On Coyotes, your number one daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes. I am your host, Robyn Leonio. A lot of you guys know Matthew Jacobson left the show, so he will no longer be my co-host, but I still have a rotating panel coming in and being a part of the show throughout the next few weeks until we figure things out a little bit more. James Mackey joining us on today's episode. James, thanks for joining us, and this is a tough week for all of us.
Yeah, I appreciate the offer. Your video is going to have to get updated though after this season. Your daily podcast for the Arizona Coyotes, it's not going to be them anymore.
It's not going to be that anymore. We're going to have a whole rebrand. Color scheme is going to change on this show probably too. It's going to be a huge thing. It really will be. After, let's say, after the Coyotes play, after the Roadrunners playoffs, maybe you'll see that the Twitter handle will be at least Locked On Utah Hockey or team name pending or something like that. I don't even know, but
more fun that way. You got to keep it up in the air with everything going on. It's been a stressful week, so a little bit of fun, lighthearted won't be too bad. Hopefully here.
It will be. But I do want to gauge. I know today is Tucson Tuesday, so we are going to talk some Tucson Roadrunners. But I do want to, at least talk to you a little bit about this whole relocation thing, because I feel like so many fans and so many fans / reporters, and just everyone and their mothers and their grandmothers has an opinion on what's going on at the Arizona Coyotes relocation situation.
Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations. I did a roundtable with our podcast, the Chirpin Yotes podcast for Inside the Rink the other day. And a lot of the conversations I had were kind of based around the nostalgia factor of everything. And ultimately it being the fact that, they went from, look at all the eras of the Coyotes from Winnipeg to America West and the old Kachina. And then you move on to the new uniforms, the red and the white, and then the running Coyote, and then the new Kachina again. It's a team whose history is so riddled with so many fun storylines. I mean, let's not forget Josh Doan, Shane Doan. You look at that family lineage, it's been crazy. Dave Tippett, Rick Tocchet, Wayne Gretzky behind the bench. It's a team that has seen a lot of changes go on. And this is the biggest one we've seen to date. It's a sell and restart essentially in a whole new city, recut your teeth in new digs. It'll be hard to lose a hockey team here in Arizona moving from Chicago, but I guess I'll have to get used to it for the time being, and hopefully it'll get some normalcy back soon.
Yeah, and I do think the positive thing, the thing that worried me the most, and I talked about it on yesterday's episode, was the worry that I had what it's going to do to the youth and community hockey scene. My thought was if and when it happened, the youth and hockey scene would shrivel up and die because there is no core here. But with the idea that the Tucson Roadrunners are reportedly, and sources have confirmed to me this as such, that they'll be moving up to Millard Arena. There's still some red tape that guys to go by, but they will. It seems to be in motion. It will be happening, and under the Coyotes brand name, nonetheless, which is going to be really interesting. I've heard that business office will be also making sure funds are still put in place for youth and community hockey, which is huge. I feel like that, that makes me at least a little bit more at ease.
Yeah, I've had buddies who grew up here playing high school hockey, and their little brothers now playing the Little Howlers program is the name of it at all the house rinks, and buddies who play with the Arizona Hockey Union, and I work closely with the high school hockey community. So that was definitely a big question on my end too. It's cool to see the Coyotes logo on all the high school hockey uniforms. And even the Horizon team Centennial is the Centennial Coyotes. They use some of that branding too. So It's definitely worrisome for community hockey. Robyn, I know you play at a community rink local, and I know a couple other people that play men's league and beer league. So it's definitely important to keep hockey here. Hockey really ultimately, in my opinion, does belong here, but that's another conversation for another day. So it's nice to see the community get their support, the Kachina's organization as well. I mean, Lindsay Fry does a fantastic job. So for them to be able to stay here is pretty big, and watch them keep growing and getting better as the years continue to pass.
Yep, and of course, as we've also mentioned on previous episodes, and we're still also holding out, and I think a lot of it is going out, is that the Coyotes will return. I mentioned it on the previous episode, on also yesterday's episode, that this is very much akin to the Cleveland Browns, Baltimore Ravens situation from back in the late 90s. So many people putting this like, yeah, that actually seems to actually make sense based off what we were told of. It's not even a real relocation. It's X team goes inactive, sells its assets to an owner of a new team, creates an expansion team, but kind of somewhat retains a little bit of the history. Former owner gets new team 3-4 years down the road under the same name, essentially reactivating the former team. Like same concept, very same concept. So
it's weird. It's definitely going to be weird. That Arizona Coyotes is not our Arizona Coyotes, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Just because, I mean, you look at the system we're going to talk about today in Tucson, they're fantastic this year. Not as many of the same names are going to be in the call. We don't know how that's going to work yet. Plus the expansion draft, they botched it with Vegas, fixed it with Seattle, and now we're going to have another one. Hopefully all the buzz around that draft, All-Star weekend, expansion draft, all in that new arena. If it happens, it will be a lot of fun, but let's hope that it feels the same still in some way.
yeah, that's always the hope, because we always want to grow the game of hockey right here in Arizona. That's what we've been doing on this show. If those that have been following the Grow the Game series and have been everydayers know about that. But what we're going to do is we're going to talk Tucson Roadrunners. As I mentioned earlier, it is Tucson Tuesday, so we are going to talk about it. They are in their final week of their regular season. Playoffs for the Tucson Runners starts next week. The Tucson Runners are going to be pretty high up. Let's get to some of the expectations coming up right after this. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's playoff time, and in the NBA and NHL, and baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. But on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all in an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Let's continue things here on Locked On Coyotes as we go through Tucson Tuesday. Robyn Leonio and James Mackey as we look at the Tucson Roadrunners. As I mentioned, it is the final week of regulation coming up for them. At least this weekend, they got their final 2 home games. On Friday and Saturday, they will be playing host to the San Jose Barracuda. Let's get like a Calder primer for everyone, Matthew. As of right now, because of how the last weekend went for the Tucson Roadrunners, they have already secured home ice advantage for the first 2 rounds of the Calder Cup Playoffs. So that's an exciting thing for everyone to look forward to. So these weekend games coming up, do they really matter all that much? Not necessarily, but with knowing how everything is going on, we're highly saying support Tucson hockey.
Yeah, I think they don't matter in terms of playoff ranking, right? Like
Right.
The first series, you have home ice advantage. So it's a best of 3. All 3 games scheduled to be in Tucson. And then you move into the second round of the playoffs, getting those games there too. It's important to have that, but with everything going on surrounding the organization, these are guys that Jan Unique just got sent down yesterday. He saw some time with the big club. Doan's seen big time with the big club. He'll make his way back down. Matt Villalta's made it too. This is the time that those guys need to continue to gel together. If you can chalk up 2 more wins before the playoffs start against a bottom team in your division, it's huge. And especially with everything going on, like I said, with the big club, you want to make sure your team sticks together. Don't let that get in between you as you head into that really important stretch of the season. You've played great hockey all year. Take advantage of what you have. Your coaching, Steve Popvin's been amazing this year. Take advantage of what you have. Move into the playoffs. Be ready to work in the first round. End it quick in 2 if you can. Get ready for the second round. Just stay locked in. Play great hockey. Don't let anything get in between you guys. And if things start to kind of create cracks, you have to find out how to fix them really fast.
Yeah, my hope is as I mentioned, and I think we were kind of saying, is that these weeks don't sure, these games don't matter all that much, like we were saying, but don't take that, too lightly, because we don't want them to completely, take their foot off the gas and, say like, hey, this all doesn't matter. Yeah, they're playing the San Jose Barracuda. The San Jose Barracuda are probably one of the worst teams in the American Hockey League right now. Right next to the San Diego Gulls, it looks like, as well as the Bridgeport Islanders. And the Iowa Wild. So those are the teams. Those are like the bottom 4 teams in the AHL right now. But I will say this: you want to go into the playoffs riding high and having a high momentum. Anyone who can follow any sport, for that matter, can tell you that, right? Whether it's college sports or professional sports, in whatever league, you want to go in, riding high rather than having, the quote, stumbling in.
Yeah, you don't want to trip and face plant into the first round of the playoffs, right? Like, obviously, if you drop one of those 2 games to San Jose, there's going to be some questions regarding your team's performance in the playoff. And I mean, on a side note, dark future for the San Jose Sharks and the San Jose Barracuda. If you're last in the AHL, they're not very good in the NHL this year. You're going to have to find that out. That's besides the point. You don't want to walk into the first round of the playoffs, face plant, and then come out flat. You want to be ready. You claim that home ice advantage, take advantage of that home ice advantage, and use it to your advantage. Ultimately, use it to be ready and take advantage of the fact you get to sleep in your own bed every night for the next couple of weeks.
I will say a couple things too. Is let's add on the knowledge, and you talked about Jan Unique getting sent down. After Wednesday, expect all the other guys to get sent down too. And that includes Dylan Guenther and Josh Stone. They will be sent right back down to get ready for the Calder Cup playoffs, as well as this final weekend. And I think that's huge. Those are 2 players who were integral to the Roadrunners' first half of the season and how exactly hot they were. And a reason why the Roadrunners are as high as they are in the playoff standings right now.
Yeah, it's hard to lose those guys to that call up, and that's the thing I've admired kind of how the front office has managed this year. You have a hot team in Tucson, you have a fumbling team after the trade deadline in Tempe, and they've done a good job of kind of asset management. They moved up, Logan Cooley at the beginning of the year, felt like he was ready. Carcone's been in the big league this year, and then like you mentioned, Guenther and Doan both got the call. They've done a really good job of managing their organization and understanding that Tucson's still in this run. Right after that 14-game losing skid, it was kind of known that he was out of it. Tucson's been in the run since that time. They've done a great job, like I said, of asset management, calling up the right players that won't make too big of an effect, not being in the minor leagues. So it appears it's worked out pretty well for them. And the Pacific Division is always tough to play in. Ontario, I know, has been really, really good. Recently, Coachella Valley's been amazing as well. So both of those teams are something to reckon with when it comes to the playoffs and the regular season, all the way up and down.
It will be, and that's something that we'll talk to and kind of maybe break down like the path that they have going up. If the playoffs started today, but I just want to reiterate saying that, hey, look, these there's a lot of things going on. I mentioned, and this could very well be a preview, even without their top players. I mentioned the games coming up this weekend. I don't want to forget that the Tucson Runners are going to be in Palm Springs on Wednesday. I know a lot of you guys, and practically like if you're listening to the show as like Arizona Coyotes fan and you live in Arizona or at least nearby, most of you guys are probably going to be at Mullet Arena on Wednesday. And if not at the game itself, like inside the arena, you're going to be outside because apparently I'm hearing thousands of fans are expected to be outside in that patio area, watching like from the parking lot or from wherever. It's actually amazing to hear about that's happening. But if you're not, if you feel like, you know what, I'd actually be inside and watch a hockey game. Palm Springs is, what, a 4-hour drive away. It's a day trip, right? But they're playing the Firebirds, and that is a potential Pacific Division Finals preview. We're talking the number 1 and number 2 teams in the Pacific Division of the American Hockey League right now. I said, you could take advantage of that. You could very well take advantage of that.
Yeah, and in Coachella Valley, you're going to have to find a way to extinguish the fire in the Firebirds quickly. Mm-hmm. Again, that's another team. They don't want to faceplant going into the playoffs. So that game on Wednesday really proves to be very pivotal. I mean, last week of the season, you're playing the number 1 team in your division. You can't overtake them, if I remember correctly, but you still have an opportunity to put up a fight against them. Let them know, hey, we may cruise through round 1 and 2. You may cruise through round 1 and 2, but that Pacific Division final, that Western Conference final after that you're gonna have to fight your way to that, and you're gonna have to work. They're not gonna go down easy. Now the team's gonna go away easy, and with a short-handed, quote unquote, Tucson team, it looks like on paper Coachella may have the advantage, but we know Tucson's been scrappy and they've played good hockey, even short a couple guys here and there as the years progressed.
Yeah, what we're going to do, though, is we're going to take a look at the path ahead for the Tucson Roadrunners. I'm looking at the playoff primer right now. We can take a look at what the matchups will look like if the playoffs started today. We'll get to that right after a quick word from our sponsors on today's show. And today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. The NHL season is just about over, regardless of where we are in the current standings. I will remind you that you can win big playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number 1 choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because with Sleeper, you can earn 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you got to do is pick what players you want to win to take 100 times your money alongside friends within the app, playing more than just NHL. You can do NBA, MLB, college football, NFL, any kind of that, all on that same app. You can talk in the group, team chat functionality, connect with other fans. Entries can be made in under a minute. All you got to do is pick whether or not studs like Dylan Gunther or Josh Jones record more or less than their Sleeper projections of things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times your bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8-player stats. You heard me, Coyotes fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL. You get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper terms of use for details and locational availability. All right, let's get some to our final thoughts here as we talk about the Tucson Roadrunners on Tucson Tuesday. As we get to the final week of the regular season, getting ready for the Calder Cup Playoffs, and as we mentioned earlier, potentially the last games that we could see for hockey for professional hockey in Tucson for quite some time. It's an emotional time. I had a lot of before we're gonna get to it. I want to get back to this thought really quick. I've had a lot of Tucson fans reach out to me, tell me how upset they are because it says Tucson Roadrunners meant a lot to them because they were like a soul for Southern Arizona culture because they really embraced, even more so than the Coyotes did, Latinx culture, having mariachi bands in the breezeway, having their El Lasso jerseys. They really embraced it, and I think that is going to be a really big part that's going to end up being lost. It's going to be sad that's happening, but it's part of business.
I don't think we're going to see that go away. That's the big thing. Is I think we're going to see a change in scenery for the team, but I would hope they would still bring that same energy everywhere. I mean, they're ultimately they're a great hockey team and their organization's fantastic. Like you mentioned, their inclusivity in South Arizona has been awesome. But I would hope that just because they move doesn't mean that they lose the cultural aspect of what Tucson hockey means, right? If you're going to keep the name Tucson, still bear in mind that you're going to have people probably from Tucson make weekend trips up north to go and watch, 2 games back to back at Mullet Arena. It's going to mean something to them if they make that drive. If not, it's going to mean something to the youth hockey community and really everyone as a whole to have professional hockey in Tempe still, even though you lose the big club.
Yeah, and that makes sense. It's just thinking, thinking big picture, a lot of things that could very well change because everything is so happening. It's so very fluid. There's so many things that we haven't been told yet that just we need questions. We have more questions than answers have already happened. So it is, a lot of things to take care of. But let's get to finishing off here a little bit because I'm looking at the AHL.com/2024 playoff primer. As of right now, so the Pacific Division part of the playoffs right now. If you want to look at if you're unsure how it works, each division has a different playoff system essentially because there's like different amount of teams in each division. You got like let's see, you got 8 teams in the Atlantic, 7 in the North, 7 in the Central, and 10 teams in the Pacific. The AHL is weird, guys. I know. Looks like 6 teams make the playoffs in the Atlantic Division, 5 teams in the North, 5 teams in the Central, and 7 teams make it in the Pacific Division. Let's focus on the Pacific Division, James. As of right now, the playoffs started right now. Coachella Valley Viper, as we mentioned, first in the Pacific, and there is no way, 0 chance the Tucson Runners catch up to them to take on first. Because I think the Firebirds have 100 points, the Roadrunners have like 87, something like that. So there's no chance. We have 3 games left, it's 0 chance at all. Yeah. But the Tucson Roadrunners have essentially locked themselves in at the number 2 seed. I was wondering what, for the last few weeks, what exactly they would be at if they can catch up to the Ontario Reign or and overtake them for the number 2 seed, or if they stay at number 3. We now know that they will be at number 2. The rest is completely, I think can very well change. Ontario still is number 3 at this time. Abbotsford is number 4. Colorado is number 5. The Colorado Eagles. You got 6, the Bakersfield Condors, and 7, the Calgary Wranglers. And so because the Calgary Wranglers are the lower seed right now, at the bottom seed of that Pacific Division playoffs, the Roadrunners will be playing them in the first round, very likely. Which I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm not sure. I'm like, Bakersfield or Colorado could have been a very different matchup. Calgary, I don't know how I feel.
Oh, man. Bakersfield and Colorado would have been fun. I think Arizona, Colorado has kind of been a common hockey rivalry. We've seen it, in the bubble. It's kind of stayed alive a little bit with the Yotes, or with the Avalanche, winning the cup a couple years ago. They keep tempo with each other, and obviously the Coyotes would love when you have regional teams. Now Vegas involved in that, and obviously with the Yotes moving to Salt Lake, it's a little bit closer to Colorado. Still not over that. That still hurts to say out loud. With them moving to Salt Lake, they're closer to Colorado. They're going to want to keep run with that if they can. And Colorado is one of those organizations that's good to look at when you look at the trajectory of this organization. The Eagles have been great this year, even though they're, you said a 5th seed, I believe. Still a strong minor league system for a powerhouse big league system, right? When it comes to Calgary, Dustin Wolf is in the NHL. That's a worry point. I'm not aware of if he's able to be sent back down or not, or if they paper moved on him. If he's not, that's a top goaltender who's seen time against the big guys. Not there, won't start. You're going to have to, take advantage of the fact that maybe a less seasoned guy down in the AHL will start for them. And take advantage of the fact that you're going to return guys to your lineup that have seen time in the NHL and know the pace of play, and hopefully they'll bring it with them when they come back down.
Yeah, those are a lot of questions, and I feel like that was a conversation I had with a friend of mine who covers AHL or is focused and does a lot of like AHL work. Pretty much told me, yeah, like I think Dustin Wolf will probably get sent down when the season's done for the Calgary Flames, and that just going to make the Calgary Wranglers that much more dangerous. And I mean, yeah, sure, for the Tucson Roadrunners, you could say the same thing when Josh Doan and Dylan Guenther go down, because we've seen how much damage they can do just at the NHL level. So you can only hope that they translate that back into the AHL, especially for the Calder Cup playoffs, because it's playoff hockey, baby.
Yeah, I'm sure Potvin will appreciate getting his two top guys back. And I'm sure he'll appreciate them bringing the intensity with them too. Hopefully they do that, bringing the intensity of, hey, we're in the playoffs. This is what it's like in the NHL. You got to step it up. Let's step it up as a whole. And hopefully, I mean, Doan's kept his cool through all this. Gunther's kept his cool through all this. Cooley, who's not going back down, has kept his cool through all this. So the young guys know how to manage the situation they're in right now with the relocation rumors. So hopefully when you get those two back, they're right there too and can kind of keep everybody's head on straight.
So the playoff system in the AHL is interesting. There's 5 rounds, right? The first is a best of 3. So it's literally just you got to win 2 games. That's all you need. Just 2 games.
Yep.
So like if you lose the first one, you're already on your heels. That's what makes the first round pretty dangerous. And I feel like that's what's going to scare me in the first round if it is Calgary. Second round, we'll see what it goes with that. That's when it goes up to a best of 5, as well as the third round. Then the last 2 rounds are best of 7. I feel like, and this is a conversation I had with a friend of mine, the same friend I mentioned earlier, that the Pacific Division Finals can very well still be the 1 versus 2. The Coachella Valley Firebirds and the Tucson Roadrunners. As I mentioned in the previous segment, it could that Wednesday's game could be a preview of that, minus a few players. I'm not sure where I think Shane Wright now is still with Coachella, so like it's gonna be interesting.
I was thinking about that yesterday. The Coyotes passed on Shane Wright to draft Logan Cooley, right?
Yes,
that was the same draft.
Mm-hmm.
And in NHL comparisons, Logan Cooley has been substantially better than Shane Wright.
Oh, yeah, you're right, because look at this. Logan Cooley was in paper transaction because the Coyotes were like, yeah, we don't need you in Tucson. I don't think you need it. Even if we want you to get playoff and postseason experience, you don't need it because you already know what the hell you're doing.
Minnesota.
Would it have been nice to see him essentially carry the Roadrunners to a Calder Cup?
Yes.
That would have been awesome. But I feel like he probably would have gotten offended by it, because you're like, well, you're sending me down to the minors? Come on, buddy.
I don't need that right now, right?
Yeah.
You and I are on the same page.
I was wrong, because I advocated for that earlier. I was like, do it. Please, for the love of God, do it. But he doesncan really need it. That was just the selfish bit in me who was claiming, who really wanted to see that happen, because can you imagine? Because we talked about those. I talked about those 3 players, Cooley, Doan, and Guenther, together on the NHL level, and how much. But if they were together on the AHL level, it would have been like, this is not fair.
Yeah. And unfair to the rest of the league, I think, is the way to kind of describe it. And ultimately, it's funny to look at it and be like, oh, like, they're good in the NHL. And then you realize that the AHL is a whole nother animal. You're surrounded by everybody else down there who's trying to make the league. These guys are trying to cut their teeth. You've made the playoffs. You've locked it down. You return a top guy from the NHL who was a top 5 pick in the NHL. You're playing with fire. It would be a blast to watch. It would be so fun to watch 1 versus 2 in the Pacific Division Finals. and it's Logan Cooley and Shane Wright at the top of it, but we won't get that this year, unfortunately.
No, we won't. And then I got to wonder if a lot of that has to deal with they probably like I mean, because this was back then, but who knows the whole different what was going on in conversations back in March after around the trade deadline. But they probably want Cooley around for through this whole relocation thing, so he can get understanding. It's like, all right, let's like you're the future of our franchise. We want you to understand what's coming, what's happening. Maybe I'm just saying he was clued in back then. I mean, I don't even, like I said, I don't know, but like there could be some aspect to that and says like, yeah, let's we want you to be included in visiting Salt Lake City when this season is all said and done, and kind of is meeting with Ryan Smith, saying getting an understanding of the new owner or whatever it might be. Kind of say, because a lot of these players are going to have a say. Some of these players are going to want to leave, which is unfortunate, but I hope not. It's some. I mean, if you got a chance to see some of the games, some players seem pretty upset or like dejected almost, because they're their lives about to get uprooted. But I'm not, again, I wasn't in the room, so I'm not saying Cooley was like an insider and knew that they were relocating all along, but
Logan Cooley is the direct descendant of Ryan Smith. New rumors starting today. Take off I am Ryan Smith's son kind of thing. I'm just kidding. Don't run with that. Nobody run with that, please. But it would have been funny if Cooley knew the entire time. Yeah, we're going to Salt Lake. I'm a time traveler. He didn't know. He didn't have any idea what was going on.
No.
It's good to have him, though. Like you mentioned, there's rumors they fly out to Salt Lake on Wednesday after the game's over to go, visit the new digs and check it all out. You're not going to have Josh Stone. You're not going to have Dylan Gunther. You're going to want to return them down south to get their, cut their teeth and get ready for next, the playoffs. But in the end, if you have Cooley there, he'll kind of get to set his feet a little bit and kind of get ready for it. And he said to Bob Heathhouse yesterday, he works with JT Miller and one other guy on the offseason, Vinny Trocheck, I apologize, in the offseason. So he's going to get to work with veteran guys on the off time, guys who haven't dealt with a relocation yet, but I'm sure they'll be able to be like, hey, look, here's probably a good way to handle it. We've seen it, we've seen it happen. We've been in the league a long time. So Cooley's going to be in good hands, even though he's not going to be with Tucson. He'll be okay. He'll be fine.
All right. Even though we're still waiting for the final 3 games of the regular season before the Calder Cup playoffs even start, I want to get a little mini prediction from you. How far will the Tucson Roadrunners take this playoff run?
Calder Cup.
Calder Cup. Will they lift the Calder Cup, or will they just make it to the finals?
2-0, 3-0, 3-0, 4-0, 4-0. Calder Cup champions.
Oh, there you're calling your shot on that one. I love it.
The way through it.
Honestly, if that actually happens, we need to get a pool together and pay this man some money right here.
I will see you after the Calder Cup playoffs.
Anyways, that's going to be it for today's episode of Locked On Coyotes. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. Interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, and on Twitter at @LO_Coyotes. I'm personally at Robyn_Leonio. James, where can we find you and your work and on social media?
At James_Mackey 35 for my Twitter, and then InsideTheRink.com. My articles are the ones with the Coyotes attached to them for the next little bit, and then Tucson. So if you're looking for some fun fan-based coverage, I've already made my declaration. Boots on the ground Wednesday at Mullet. I'm going to talk to fans, get their reaction, what the team means to them. And special shout out to the Coyotes group chat that I'm in. They've been amazing through all this, working to help with community stuff. And we put together a Google poll, a Google form, actually, and we had people fill out. We got almost 500 responses for me to go off of and include in the article. So I'm looking forward to putting together something good about what this team means to the community and showing it off, just to be like, hey, here's what you're losing out on. Here's what you're affecting the most. It'll be fun. And I appreciate you having me on today, Robyn. It means a lot.
Awesome. Appreciate you coming on. But if you guys have any questions, don't forget, feel free to interact with me or the podcast page. I'll be answering right back or in a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. That's gonna be it for today's episode, guys. Once again, hope you guys are staying safe. Hope you guys are staying healthy, and don't forget to howl on.